you never get something for nothing. Believe me.
Uh-huh.
And if they think that having a socialist economy is going to work, they're mistaken. And they've already seen the product of that. And so they've got to be willing to take the hit. And it's just like, a fighter. You go into the ring, and you may get knocked out. And so you got to be willing to step forward and try to fix the situation which you are in, and that's the way to do it. And they haven't been able to do it yet.
Well, you're right when you say that the old monetary system, the whole global system, must be destroyed. And this is why we're seeing a global depression. But they don't admit that there's a depression. They keep talking about a double dip recession, a choppy recovery, and they lie about the job numbers being so low. And the old system is being destroyed to bring in the new. And this is a very, very old idea. There's nothing new about this new world order, is there? I mean, if the old system is destroyed, it's not going to be pretty.
No, it's not, and it never is. And as you allude to, it's nothing new. It happens all the time for the last 1,000 years or more. And this is the same gang of criminals that have financed almost every war on both sides for the last 1,000 years or more. The players have changed somewhat, but it's basically the same families doing the same things. And, this time they're going to lose because the world is going to find out about what they're really doing. And when they do lose, we have to make sure that they can't do it again for a long, long time. Now, these people have to be incarcerated, and their wealth has to be taken away from them and put into the coffers of the country of the people who got it stolen from them, which is everybody in the world. I mean, I get letters from people in over 100 countries that say, hey, we get the same problem.
In the article about George Osborne handing over power, it mentions the Bank of England is to be handed over sweeping new powers over Britain's financial system, including the responsibility to avoid another housing bubble. Well, we know Goldman Sachs bet on the housing market. And I quote, as part of a major shake-up of financial regulation in the UK, George Osborne will announce that the Bank of England is to be given a new toolkit to help it manage risk in the UK economy. This will include the power to restrict bank lending, potentially allowing the bank to block consumers from borrowing too much. It's all our fault, isn't it, Bob?
Right, and they're not going to have a recovery. If they can flatline and go linear, that's the best they can hope for, whether it's the UK or any of the other countries, including the United States. In fact, the UK is probably in as bad a shape as Greece is.
They
really went off the...
Yeah.
What's that?
They admit themselves that it's bankrupt.
Right, and so they're stimulating their economy. They have austerity. They raise taxes. Raising taxes is the stupidest thing you can do. When you see them raise taxes, you're darn right well, they really don't want a recovery. But anyway, that's what they're doing in Europe and in the UK. But they're still using stimulus in the UK and the United States. That's what Wednesday's FOMC, Federal Open Market Committee, statement was all about. For those of you who don't know, the FOMC represents 12 Federal Reserve banks. By far the most powerful is the New York Fed. And then there's the Federal Reserve system, which is represented in Washington. The FOMC and the people behind the FOMC tell everybody else what to do. And so they have to go toward easing unless they want to pull the plug. Pulling the plug is something they're going to do eventually. That's why they've done what they've done. Obviously, they're not ready yet. And I think one of the main reasons is they need another widespread war to cover up the failure within the financial and economic system, which they deliberately created. And so they'll have the people impoverished. They'll have a war. They won't have anything to say about, who's going to kill who. And they'll probably relieve the world of about half of its population before they get through. And that is a goal of theirs. And
Yes.
that's the direction they're going. But they haven't made the decision yet to start that war. And it may, could start in the next month for all I know.
Well,
I know it's going to happen.
World War I began in August. World War II began in August. We know these satanic Illuminati are into their dates. They have their special little times for their occult practices, especially starting a war. Do you, from your indications, from your sources, do you see something happening this month in the Middle East or Iran?
Well, Ray McGovern, who worked for the CIA for 27 years,
Yes.
he says it's going to happen in the next 5 weeks. And, he's about as good and a reliable a source as you can find. And doesn't make him infallible, because none of us know. We're backing into it. I mean,
So you
he's
think
still got
that...
his contacts like I have. But, as time goes on, people die, things change, people don't want to get involved. And so, the quality of information can sometimes deteriorate. But the point is, that's what he says, and I'll go along with him. I mean, look at there's over 100 ships in the water just off Iran, and the Straits of Hormuz, and why would you have them there? That same sort of armada was there before they invaded Iraq. And why does Israel have?
Yeah.
What's that?
It is provocative, to say the least.
Right. Why does Israel have planes in Saudi Arabia and Azerbaijan and Georgia and in that area? It's obvious what they're planning.
So it's about time, isn't it? Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead.
So it's all about timing, really, isn't it? You say that you're not sure why they haven't pulled the plug yet completely. They need to fund, perhaps they need to fund this war that's coming, and but the depopulation plan is working very well for them. People are dropping like flies at 20 years old with cancer. So unless they want to march people off into war, it needs to be funded. And but I don't see the connection with these austerity measures. Can you explain? I'm still a bit confused about exactly what that means. You hear it rolled out across every nation. Every leader is saying austerity measures, blah, blah, blah. What does that actually mean at ground level for people?
Well, it usually means an end of hiring for lower level government jobs as well as federal government jobs. I think that's the best way I can express it. Say a freeze on hiring and maybe even a diminution of force. It also means higher taxes. And, when you're in that kind of a bind, the worst possible thing you can do is raise taxes, because it takes consumption out of people's hands and puts it in the government's hands to relieve debt. And that's not going to solve your problem. The debt has to be defaulted on. It can't be paid. Now, we saw that in Argentina in 1999 and 2000, 2001, and they paid off 30 cents on the dollar. And they said, look, we're all messed up, and we can't do any better than that. They're still fighting with some of the bondholders, but the point is, that's what's going to have to happen. So down the line, 6 months, 2 years from now, whatever it is, and it's not going to be that long, there will be a general meeting somewhere, like the Smithsonian meetings in the early 70s, the Plaza Accord of 85, and the Plaza Hotel in Paris, and also the Louvre Accord in the Louvre Museum in 1987. So they're all going